Charles, if you think about the biggest challenges that Kamala Harris has as she seeks to A, secure the Democratic nomination, and B, looks to take on Donald Trump, what are those challenges?
Well, I think the first is she has to unify the party, which seems to be happening very quickly. In fact, all the endorsements that have come out, not only President Biden's, but the Clintons, an increasingly large number of Hill Democrats, most donors, and then also some of the potential challengers to her. Governor Newsom has endorsed her. Whitmer has said she's not going to run. Now Manchin just came out literally in the last 20 minutes to say he's not going to run. So, unifying the party is happening quicker, even faster than people expected. Secondly, she needs to pick a running mate. You just spent time on that on your show. I think Mark Kelly of Arizona is very much in the top two, along with Cooper of North Carolina, but there are others. They need a swing state. Third, she really needs to introduce herself as a presidential candidate, along with her running mate. And lastly, dispel some of the concern about her 2020 presidential race, where it was very short-lived and not very well run. So that's a lot to do, and the election's 3 months away.
In terms of the effects on the markets, Charles, we have been trying to divine what the dollar trade is telling us, what Bitcoin is telling us, how the curve steepener looks. What's your best take as someone who advises hedge funds and high net worth individuals on the intersection of, Wall Street and Washington?
So what we've been saying is, for our clients that are positioned for the Trump trade, to maybe be a bit cautious, because I do think that that's going to fade a little bit here. When you have a huge shakeup in an election, this is a historic shakeup with a sitting president who's won the primary, now dropping out of the race. You typically see quite a bit of enthusiasm and momentum behind the new candidate. And then she's going to pick her running mate. Then they go into the convention mid-August. I think she'll close the gap. Kamala will close the gap in the polls with Trump, maybe even pull ahead. So I think the Trump trade, at least in the short term, there's some risk of it fading a bit. What we're getting asked about is what is the Harris trade, and the two things that come to mind immediately are renewable plays, but I think it's a bit early to really be trying to decide anything on our election. But secondly, if she wins the White House, I do think it'll be she and her administration, like the Biden administration, will be a little less pro-crypto, as certainly Trump and Vance are.
Yeah, of course, a lot of ifs there, a lot to get through before we get to the actual election and perhaps what that Harris trade might be. But let's talk about the convention first, because, of course, this is a very narrow timeline, and there's a lot of questions about what the convention will actually look like. We heard from Joe Manchin saying today that Harris has basically been anointed, but what are the possibilities that we could see in mid-August?
Yeah, so, one of the reasons, the main reason I believe that the Obamas and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have not endorsed Kamala is to make sure that it doesn't look like a coronation, that it will go to the convention, and it will be the only people in the country that can decide whether or not Kamala Harris will be the nominee are the just under 4,000 delegates at the convention. It's a simple round of voting. It's a simple majority. I think she wins in the first round. And if not, it goes to the second round of delegates and superdelegates that are party officials. She'll win in the second round, but I think she wins in the first round. So any notion that this is a coronation, I think, is a little misplaced. It still goes to the convention mid-August, and it's up to the delegates.
How much of a time crunch does that put on her? Because by the time you get to the convention, you're really looking at less than 80 days to the election.
Oh, absolutely. That's the reason we don't think President Biden's going to resign the presidency. There's going to be increasing calls for Kamala to invoke the 25th Amendment and bring a vote to the cabinet to remove the president, or that he resigns the presidency. We don't think that's going to happen, precisely because of your question. Trying to literally launch a new campaign, a relatively new campaign, in 3 months and run the country, I think, are a lot to ask. I think President Biden stays in the White House and Kamala runs the campaign. They're going to retool it. It's already happening very quickly. It's a condensed campaign. Sometimes those are better. Ask our friends in the UK. Shorter campaigns can be better.
Yeah, Republicans, though, already making that threat to the presidency and making maybe a legal threat to the Harris campaign. Is it substantial or substantive when they say, it's not fair to pass the money that the Biden-Harris ticket has raised to a sole Harris ticket?
No, there are two potential legal challenges. One is that the money, but the truth is all the money was raised, or almost all of it, into the Biden-Harris Victory Fund. So she gets the money instantly, and they can challenge that. I think they're wasting their time. The second, because she will get the money, and the rules are pretty clear. The second challenge is for Biden, for the states and at the convention to swap out Biden's name for her name, and that legal challenge also will be, I'm not even sure it makes it to the courts, but will be thrown out because Biden isn't officially the nominee. He has not yet been confirmed by the delegates. If this were at the convention, if this were after the convention, some of those legal challenges might hold. But the truth is, he has won the primary. He's not the nominee yet. So I think all of the legal challenges, including from the Heritage Foundation, are all going to be a waste of time.
Charles, what do you think this means for the Trump campaign? Of course, you think about what we learned and heard at the RNC last week. It was a lot of anti-Biden messaging. Obviously, they're going to have to retool that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Trump was on CNN last night saying that they want a refund because they've spent so much money on Biden. The truth is, Biden's decision did catch a lot of people by surprise. I think it was increasingly clear he would need to drop out. I think his timing was a bit of a surprise, even to some of his own staff. And it didn't give, therefore, the Trump campaign enough time also to kind of, retool. They will. Both sides are very well funded. They will find a way to retool pretty quickly. But, I think the bigger issue is you now have a Democratic nominee and soon-to-be candidate, confirmed candidate, who's uniting the party, very well funded, with a lot of enthusiasm, and very importantly, will drive more turnout by women, young voters, and black voters in the swing states. If I were in the Trump campaign, I'd be sweating today. I think that she's going to give him a real run for his money.